Hey guys, welcome back to Football Ninja with Amit and Karthik. So Karthik, FA Cup Finals. Before we go to Chelsea and Arsenal, let me just ask you this quick question. What the hell went wrong with the referee in this game?
Don't even begin to ask me that question. Like, really. I mean, yeah, I get it. We did not play well. Chelsea did not play well, except for the first 15 minutes. But, the refereeing was pathetic. And that I don't know if there's a worse word than that, but it was horrible. And it's not just me saying that, right? Or Chelsea fans saying that, right? It was a general feeling around.
And I totally agree with you, right? In that norms of, see, I'm watching this final as a neutral, right?
Right.
So you would understand my plight of seeing an horrible final. I would expect a team which has won against Arsenal, a team which is Arsenal winning, Arsenal which has won against, say, a City, and then coming into final, and same thing with Chelsea as well, right? And correct. I would want to watch an entertaining final.
Yep. My problem is you have all the freaking technology in the world now. You have VAR, using it right. Why the fuck can you not use it for a second yellow card, which you know is gonna be game changing, right? So, the worst part. See, if
on the tell me.
The worst part about it is. If it was a foul, all right, I would still get it. You give them a second yellow, right? If it still was a foul. Correct. It was a foul against Kovacic for which he got a second yellow and got a red card. Yeah. And I think after Pulisic, Kovacic was the next best player for me, right? On the pitch that day. He's been performing really well, and two of your good players out of the team, and they are clueless. I mean, if you talk about Aubameyang, he was toying with Chelsea defense all game. Even Azpilicueta, who has been the best defender in the team, not even in the league, in the team, he just got past him to score the first goal, or he was almost there when he fouled him for the penalty. He's out, and then I don't even want to talk about Zuma and Christensen and Rudiger,
and James.
I don't even want to go there. So, it was hard, but then I think Arsenal played. In other terms, I think Arsenal played well. They had the game plan set.
Correct.
They knew they were going to hit on the counter attack. They knew Aubameyang was going to make those runs. So it was all set. So I think
Karthik, I disagree there. I really disagree to that point. I don't think so. They knew, or even if they knew, they didn't do shit about Aubameyang, crossing James 3-4 times. It didn't happen just once in the game. They knew it was happening, but there was nobody on the pitch to tell them, guys, you know what, Aubameyang is going to make those runs, and nobody did anything about it. So there was a lot of, which I kind of dislike. So see, a lot of things that, so I totally agree where the refereeing was really bad. And you can also say in a point where, Chelsea kind of lost, or they lost because of some part of the game because of bad refereeing. But I don't think so. Arsenal won because of bad refereeing. They won because they were more attacking in certain points of time.
So my point is, see, when you come to a game, obviously you don't have just one plan in mind, right? You obviously have a plan B in place. Correct. When if this is not working, we're just going to try and switch things around a little bit to see what works. Mm-hmm. Now, the first goal, which was a penalty, you easily got past Azpilicueta. So that sort of side is sort of weak. And when Azpilicueta is gone, you have Christensen, who has not played a lot this season, except initially, right? He hasn't played. And he's not been performing well. Mm-hmm. Those are the people you're going to target. Zuma is not playing really well. So Aubameyang he knew that was the place where he can get into. Rudiger, although he's been inconsistent, but he's still an experienced defender, right? So it sort of becomes a little difficult. But then it was easy for Aubameyang to just go out and easily get past them and score. And what an amazing second goal it was. It was a really good goal. It was a well taken goal. It was a great individual goal by Aubameyang.
If you see the game, how it really went, probably first 20 minutes were kind of Chelsea was leading in the first 20 minutes. You could see them attacking, easily breaking the defense line of Arsenal and scoring that beautiful goal that Pulisic scored. And once he got injured, and that's when things went a little bad for Chelsea.
Yep.
And also Arsenal came back really strong.
Yeah, and I think the other problem what happened was Jorginho, if you watch the game, Jorginho had the ball in a good amount of space where he was looking to put it forward. First, he was waiting for somebody to make that run, which Pulisic usually does.
Correct.
Mount did not do
exactly,
that.
yes.
Pedro did not do that after he came on. So I think that was also where that was lacking, and then he was forced to pass back, or just play a back pass, or just play around that area. So I think that was also the problem. Giroud is not a runner. He's not going to make runs for you. Not a lot. I mean, he does, but not a lot. But then it was expected. I think it was more expected from Mount and Pedro to do that. I think they also missed Willian on the pitch. I think if he would have been there, things would have been slightly different.
Yes, they did. Yes.
So because he sort of commands the front line, when he's there, he has good amount of experience, so he does that. But then I think that was lacking, and after Pulisic went and after Azpilicueta was out, everything just fell apart.
Just before we change the entire thing from Chelsea to Arsenal, I would like to put that saying that how amazing Giroud assist to Pulisic was for that goal that he gave.
Oh yeah,
it was an amazing goal, and also the way Pulisic was there around to get that kind of pass, that awareness itself was amazing to combine together to put that goal in.
Yeah, and to be very honest, I think Giroud is very underrated. Even when he was in Arsenal, he's not a goal scorer. But he is a really good holding forward that you would need, or he's
Correct.
really
Absolutely, yes.
good putting balls for these runners on the wings. He used to do that a lot with Eden Hazard when he was there, and he's doing a sort of very similar thing with his back flicks and all these different tricks in the back that he has.
I think you can say that for Giroud in the French team when they won World Cup.
Exactly, zero shots on target, right?
Well.
Exactly, zero shots on targets. But then he brings something to the team which probably a lot of good strikers don't. I mean, for whatever reason, Benzema was left out of the French team. I'm not sure of that, but then I think Giroud did really well even in the World Cup, and he consistently played every game in the World Cup for a reason, right? Not because he was not expected to score goals. He was expected to have these players make those runs, and that's what he is doing in Chelsea. And I think that's working out really well right now. Probably next season when Timo Werner comes in, he would probably bring in a different dimension. But let's see how that works out.
Yeah. So moving on from this, I would want to know from you that what is that? So because Chelsea lost this game, I want to know that what is that one positive that you see from this Chelsea team that Frank Lampard would take after this defeat?
I mean, okay, let me talk about the entire season as a whole, right? I mean,
absolutely, yeah.
When Frank Lampard came in, Eden Hazard was out, probably the best player in the last 3-4 years that that they had, and I think almost everybody sort of wrote them off, including me being a fan. I sort of decided in my head, okay, you know what, we're not gonna probably play Champions League next season, maybe Europa League, but that is what I had in my mind. Okay, this is where we're gonna finish, around 7th, 8th, 6th, 7th, 8th, something around that. And but I think after October we were in 3rd. So I was like, okay, this is just the beginning. There's going to be a lot of inconsistencies along the way. But then I think Chelsea was there for a good 6-7 months in 3rd or 4th position, and I think he did a really good job, which was not expected out of it. With zero spending the entire year, they had the option to buy a player in January, but they opted out against it. I recently read that apparently Aubameyang was I mentioned this in one of the podcasts that Aubameyang was one of the targets in January, which he sort of recently came out and said that he was willing to make that move, but then Chelsea did not agree to pay his wages, pay his high amount of wages. So that could not happen. I'm sort of happy about it because probably if he would have come, then we wouldn't have got Werner. And Werner is a young striker, so sort of happy that did not happen. Sort of happy that did not happen. And I think overall it was a really good job done. Finishing fourth and getting Champions League next season, which also has really good financial implications for the club, and also going to the final, right? Also beating a really good team. So they beat Liverpool, Leicester, Man United along the way. Which again I did not expect them to do. So I think he did a really good job. I mean, if I have to rate it out of 10, I would probably give it 8 out of 10 in my mind. Yeah.
As a season. But then I'm still want to know that what positives do you take from here to build for the next year? So a couple of things in my head that are coming, right? If you're a Chelsea fan and you say, okay, guess what, Frank Lampard is coming and seasoning manager of this season, and then guess what, he has absolutely no spending to do, and then okay, already we are at not a good stage to start. Then you would at the end would say, guess what, you would end up fourth in Premier League and also will be part of an FA Cup final. That is already amazing, right?
Yeah.
And going from there, there are certain things that I would want this Chelsea team to fix. Basically, the back line and also the number one, because if you are challenging for that Premier League number one spot, or if you're trying to challenge Liverpool and City now, you have to fix your number one issue, right?
Exactly.
If you see in the past, in this season itself, Chelsea has almost conceded 75 goals in 54 games. That shows that there is an issue in the back line.
Yep.
Though they are kind of scoring more goals to reduce the deficit and finishing number 4. I think Chelsea has to fix that back ranking issues.
Yeah, of course. I mean, people are sort of blaming the goalkeeper a lot this season, but I think just fixing that is not going to solve the issue that is there.
Correct. Yeah. Yes.
Definitely need a left back because Frank Lampard likes to play 4-3-3. So he sort of changed it to 3-4-3 in the last few games, probably just to especially in FA Cup and a couple of games, right? The last few games, so especially to fit in Alonso, and he could also have James, to have those 5 people in defense. But then that was just a temporary fix that was there, and definitely they need to buy a centre back, definitely a left back, and I think right back, it's good for now. There is Azpilicueta. I think James has done really well for his first season, although he's still very young. He's 19 and still learning. Still has a long way to go, but then I think he's done a pretty decent job in his first season at Chelsea. I think a goalkeeper, a left back, and a centre back should fix this probably, and not just any centre back. I think we need somebody like Virgil van Dijk or somebody like Sergio Ramos, who can sort of command that entire line and couple that with a good goalkeeper. So that pair would sort of, help really well to fix that issue. I think
that commanding role that you're talking about, and also that leadership quality was also kind of very evident that is not here in the FA Cup final, right? Where when Aubameyang was making those kind of runs, there was absolutely nobody telling James to do exactly what to. There was no Zuma talk. There was no communication you could see between the defenders. Rudiger was I don't know where. Zuma was not having any communication with James, and this is not something that can be handled by a manager. It's not a strategy, right? It's just that two defenders talk amongst each other. That communication that happens, which was absolutely missing in this game.
Yeah, I mean, the coach can only tell you to communicate, but it is up to you to do that, right? So
correct. Yeah,
I think that was missing, and I think
so. There was this leadership missing that I saw,
and I think also Azpilicueta was also missing, who is sort of trying to do that or trying to replicate what Terry or Kale used to do. But then after he also went off, I think there was nobody. I think Rudiger was supposed to do that, being the most experienced defender in the line, but then that was sort of missing. So I think we need somebody like Virgil van Dijk who can sort of do that. and a really good goalkeeper. I saw a couple. I mean, there are a couple of them who are linked. So there's Onana, there is Nick Pope. I think Nick Pope would be a really good signing. He has experience playing in the Premier League, so he knows how the league works or how the play is. Somebody coming from La Liga,
But that'll be
or
a difficult signing for Chelsea
yeah,
to do, don't you think?
that would definitely be difficult, and he's not going to come cheap. Apparently, they've quoted around 60 million approximately. That probably will go higher, but I think I also recently read that they have put 5 defenders up for sale. So 4 defenders up for sale, and also if needed, they're also willing to sell Kante to fund these transfers. Apparently, so
Yeah, correct. But then I think Chelsea has a lot of stock to sell. Anyways, they have a lot of players that they can sell.
Yeah.
Basho is
Yeah.
back. Even Bakayoko is back. They can kind of compensate with a lot of. Talking about Nick Pope now, he's the only star in Burnley side, so they would try to put as much money as possible in that transfer so that they make money out of it.
Of course, I mean, yeah, I mean, also Nick Pope would want to move to a bigger team, right? I mean, he's at that age where he wants to do that. I think the other.
Karthik, but isn't he too old? I think Chelsea is would want to have some young keeper come in so that they have certain thing for the future as well.
That's true. That's what we tried this time, right? With Kepa, who is 24 when he was 24 when he came in, but that sort of did not work out. I think with goalkeepers and defenders, I think it's more about the experience that you get. So I think he's 28. I think it's a decent age to come in. He can at least play for the next 4, 5, 6 years, probably. So I think that sort of works out. The other goalkeeper who is linked is Dean Henderson, who is pretty young. He's just had 1 season in the Premier League right now, so, and that too with a really good defense line in Sheffield United, right? So one of the teams that led in the least number of goals in the league. So
Correct.
right. So probably they should do away with that. I mean, as a fan, I would want Nick Pope much more than Dean Henderson because he probably still needs to prove at this level. He's just had 1 season, So probably him, or I'm also pretty open to Onana, who's done really, really well. But then again, he plays in the Dutch league. So let's see. I mean, my highest priority would be Nick Pope amongst all of these. But let's see. But there is a goalkeeper definitely coming in.
No, but then I think the one thing that would definitely would make Chelsea fans happy is the kind of signings you guys have already made.
Right.
I think we have spoken so much about it in the previous podcast as well. Coming to the Arsenal side, I think this win would mark Arteta kind of his signing as well, him winning in 2014 as a player, and now him lifting the trophy as a manager.
Yep, and I think the good thing is he also thanked Pep Guardiola in his post-match interview, which I think was a really good gesture, which he did.
Correct.
He thanked him for whatever he is today, which is probably true. And so yeah, I mean that's a good end to the season for them. I think they sort of struggled in the league this year. Change of managers, a lot of things going wrong at the beginning of the season, and then Arteta came in, things started to improve, and they have won the FA Cup now. And that takes them to Europe as well. So I think that was a good end to the season for them. And then that also sort of serves the.
But where does Arsenal goes? Like where do they go from here? Like what do you think happening good for them from here?
I mean, one thing I can talk about is they can, since they are in Europe, they can keep hold of their good players. I think that especially players like.
But Karthik, being in Europa is different from being in Champions League, right?
Right, but then my thing is it at least something is better than nothing. I mean, if they would have lost FA Cup, they wouldn't have been
that's
anything,
absolutely
and that would definitely mean people like Aubameyang or Lacazette or Saka, who's played really well this season, they would definitely leave, right? Or they would be on the brink of leaving. But then Europa League at least gives them a chance of holding these players back. and then also signing a couple of young people. I mean, they always go for youngsters who are developing. They have already got a left back, so I think they've already signed a left back, which they loaned back. So, and I think if they get probably a defender, or I think they need two defenders because all three that they haven't been performing really well. So so I think if they have that, I think that sort of fixes a lot of things, right? And I think they really also need a really good midfielder. There, especially Ozil, I think he's gonna move most probably this year. So I think it was good for them to win the cup, and probably let's see. Probably they should be able to keep hold of Aubameyang, which is their most prized player right now.
But Karthik, don't you think that, so now when we are talking about all Arsenal especially, and we are talking about now they have been in Europe again, and they have pretty good performance, especially in FA Cup if you pick it up, and now they might buy new players. But do you think that the management would agree to what anybody says? Like, do you think Arteta would get the kind of funds which he would want to at least see, not just to buy new players? I don't think that's a problem. At least retaining Aubameyang, will the management will give him money to retain him?
I just have one answer for you: no, they wouldn't. Right? So they have to work around that. I think. I mean, a manager like Arsene Wenger could not do it. He could not keep hold of the best players.
And the problem with this is they're quite infamous. Especially the management is quite infamous of not figuring out making sure that the good players are their contract is stretched till the last years, almost when they are almost about to go for free. That has happened in the past, especially if you just pick good names. I think the last few transfers that have happened is Giroud to Chelsea. Previous to that was Van Persie to
right. So but I have one question, right, for you. So to do that, to keep hold of your best players, you also need to consistently be there or be in the Champions League. When was the last time that they finished in the top four? I don't remember. Probably a couple of years back, right? I don't remember the exact year. So, and players these days are very, they want to play in the Champions League.
That's correct.
They are not going to stick to one club because that is where they started their career or that is where they were born or whatever, right? They're not going to do that. They want Champions League fucking football to play, right? So
correct.
And if you cannot do that, okay, you can play for 2 years and then maybe miss a year. That still works out. But if you consistently are not in Champions League, you're going to miss out on your top players for sure.
And that's I think that's both ways, Karthik. It's not just from the player side as well. So it's the same thing from the club side as well, right? So if I think somebody like an Ozil 2 years back, I think every club on this planet would have happily agreed to get him, but he wanted to stick to Arsenal. So what happened to him now? See how he's been treated in Arsenal. So it's the same thing with both the sides, no?
Right. And I think a lot has to do with how the club has also performed in recent years, right? So let's take an example, say Manchester United, right? Even if they don't play, I'm just taking an example, so don't be offended. So even if they don't play in Champions League, say for the next 3 years,
I'm not here to get offended. First of all, okay.
I'm just saying, even if they don't play in Champions League for the next 3 seasons, you're not going to lose a lot of players, right? Because people know it's a big club. It's a really, really big club, and there will be a year where you're gonna do that, and the management is gonna spend money to get the best players to make sure where the club wants to,
or at least try to,
right? So at least try to reach where they want to go. But that sort of, you don't see that happening in Arsenal. I mean, in the last few years, you've seen a couple of good transfers. I mean, Aubameyang was, of course, one. Lacazette was one, and they got Pepe last season for about 70 million.
Correct, yeah.
Right. Although he did not play well, but then at least you see that happening earlier. You're just gonna see young players coming in, breaking out in that team, and then leaving. So there is definitely a reason for that. I think it is not the same Arsenal that it used to be when probably we started watching football. Thierry Henry or Robert Pires or Ljungberg, people like that sort of made that team a big team. But then now, Vieira, yeah. So now you see, I mean, a lot. I mean, even Aubameyang, right? He wants to leave. He sort of confirmed that, or he sort of did not confirm that he's going to stay at Arsenal for the next season.
Stay, yeah. That's a big thing. That's a big thing to do as a player, right?
Yeah. So you're sort of telling the club, you know what, you give me the money, or I'm going to fucking leave, right? So that's where he is, and then I think, even though he's 31, Aubameyang, but I think there will be several clubs who would be ready to pay the wages that he wants.
Correct. So especially a striker who guarantees you 20 plus goals in Premier League.
Yeah.
You don't get those kind of strikers nowadays.
Right.
You might get a striker who might give you some 10 goals, but Aubameyang has proven season over season that he is that kind of striker who can give you 20 goals.
Yeah, and I think sort of Barcelona is sort of also interested to take him because so there will be a line of clubs who will be there. So I think if Arsenal doesn't do anything soon, they're gonna lose their only
the problem with all this story is, see, I think Arsenal, this is one of their best seasons, regardlessly how it started and how it went in the middle. And to end the season with an FA Cup trophy in their hand, it's good as an Arsenal fan too. But you have to understand that there is still something called as Arsenal management, where Arteta is very infamously, if you remember that press conference where he said that I want people, but I don't know if I get the funding or not. When the manager himself is not confident with the management, then regardlessly what happens to the fan, let's see. I hope something good comes out of it, because a good Premier League would want Arsenal to come back, would want these kind of teams to come back and play well how they used to play.
Yeah, and I think the other reason is in recent years you have seen a rise of a couple of different teams that have come up who you would not even guess that would finish in the top four. One example being Leicester City, right? That's the best example, who won the league. Now they're sort of consistently threatening the top 6 position. And then Arsenal sort of slipping there. Tottenham, again, I think after 2015 they have been inconsistently performing. I mean, I'm not talking about last year. Yes, they reached the Champions League final, which was a great run, but they are sort of struggling. So,
but wasn't that the only great run from them in the last 5 years?
In their history, or last 5 years?
See, when we talk about teams like this, Karthik, so especially Leicester we spoke about, right?
Yeah.
Leicester was doing really well till almost like end of the season. And the only difference between Leicester and any other top 4 good team, apart from Leicester, I mean, is that they were in the squad was very thin, right? When people started getting injured, they could not replace them with good players. And after a point of time, you could see Leicester playing with youngsters. So many youngsters, it felt like under 17 or under 19 Leicester team.
Except one, or except two. Their goalkeeper and their forward, right? Vardy.
Yeah, so most of the team felt like an under 19 team.
Yeah. So
and also now, because they are in Europa, and now their squad will be tested even more, right? They'll have more games to play. Their squad will be more vulnerable to kind of injuries or tiredness or fatigue. So let's see, where do they end up?
Yeah, so I think Brandon Rodgers has done an excellent job with the team, what the resources that he had. I mean, I was expecting them to finish top 4, but they just fucked up in the end. Especially after the restart. I think if the pandemic wouldn't have it, they would have probably finished in the top 4. They were.
I disagree there, Karthik.
Why do you say so?
I disagree there. I think. See, as I said earlier as well, the squad was very thin. So that's the reason why. See, if pandemic hit them as well, right? They had enough time to recuperate their players, but that didn't happen because again the squad was very thin. They could not substitute Maddison or their other players who were injured or got red card for rest of the season.
Yeah, I think that was one of the fucked up things that happened with Leicester, right? So into their only good defender getting a straight red, getting banned for 3 matches. And then Morgan coming in, who looked like that all he's been doing during the lockdown is eating. So
Oh, that was okay. So I think Karthik, that's a very Higuain-esque move by Morgan.
Morgan, yeah. Oh, but Higuain was in a totally different shape, dude. I mean, so I mean, he was giving Sari a run for his money in terms of health, right? So, um, so yeah, I think.
I think this is a good time to finish this podcast. I
Yeah.
hope you guys enjoyed, and would see you guys after the Champions League game. Thank you so much for listening.
Thanks a lot. Bye.